One advice that I had that I've heard at the Founder Institute, fall in love with the problem. So, we're solving a problem and not with the solution because like, for me, anything that's going to solve the problem is valid, and that helps you mindset as well, like having to pivot when you have to, because it's sort of like, what's the fastest way? And for me, it's like our why is like, we want to help, we want to support the transition to electric vehicle because we believe that it's more sustainable. To me, it's like, this is the way to net zero, and there's an urgency in that. So this is my why, and then anything that we will do that has the most impact, this is what we're going to do. So, and we didn't have major pivot, but we've already pivoted during the Founder Institute, and then since then, be focused and to show real traction. So we need, you'll have to show numbers. You'll have to see, we've reached out to so many people. We've got that many conversion. All this kind of thing is so important to demonstrate traction when you start talking to investors. The last one I put, and you've mentioned Rebecca, but one of the things that I got out of the way as soon as I finished the Founder Institute, and some of it during the Founder Institute, but it's to have like a really robust shareholder agreement. I've set up my ESOP. I did all the legal bits early on, because then it's sort of like, even between my co-founder, I think it was, once we got this out of the way, we were focused on like, okay, let's deliver, rather than being like, oh, what this happened. So sometimes it's uncomfortable discussions to have, because you think about everything that can go wrong. But and Rebecca was really helpful during the program as well with that. But and I don't like the legal stuff, so I'm like, I got it first and then got it out of the way, and now it's like, it's good. And then even when people come in, when I started reaching out to advisors, I actually got all my top advisors that I had on my target list. But it's like, I was coming in, I was saying, this is our why, this is our vision. Oh, and by the way, I've already got an ESOP in place. It looks like, okay, well, she's organized, and it just looked good.
My quick background for context, you probably figured out from my accent. I'm Irish, moved to Sydney about 4 years ago, and I was a corporate lawyer, had no startup experience, had no network whatsoever really in startup or business world in Australia. And that was the main reason I joined Founder Institute. There was an educational aspect, but a big thing for me was, I don't know anyone in this space and I've never done this before. So how am I going to get access to people who know and understand and who are going to rip my idea to shreds? What do I need to learn quickly and in a structured way? And so the Founder Institute was a fairly pivotal thing that I did in my journey. It was challenging, but in a good way. And so I would encourage everyone to really, if you're here, buy into the structure and the program. It does pay dividends. In terms of the business we've built, in a nutshell, we enable people with dietary needs to navigate life. The genesis and the idea for Foodini came from a problem that I have myself. So I was diagnosed with celiac disease, which means gluten-free in essence, when I was 10 years old. I had, most of my life experiencing how difficult a problem it was to navigate. And anyone here who has a family member, a friend, a coworker who has an allergy or a dietary requirement will understand what a pain it is to just find venues to eat at, trust and have confidence in the venues you're going to, and just navigate the problem holistically. So that was the catalyst for founding what is now Foodini, but it didn't start that way.
When we went into the Founder Institute, it was a very different, I would say, product. I think at the time, there was a delivery component. For me, I think the real value was in weekly, just getting people who really knew their stuff, really stress testing and poking holes in what we're doing. And again, that constructive feedback, you cannot put a price on it. Like, the last thing you need people doing is tapping your back every week and saying, oh, that's great. Like, you need people constructively saying, listen, I think, what you're doing is you're on the right track, but have you thought about this? And I think it took me about 6 weeks before I realized that every week people were questioning the delivery aspect and they were essentially making the very valid point in hindsight around, if you're going to go down delivery, you're competing with Uber Eats and Deliveroo, like, you're not going to win that battle. And of course, once I got my head around that, I realized they were right. And that was a big pivot in our business and totally changed the unit economics, how we were monetizing and what the business looked like. But again, that was something that came through, I would say, in the first 6 weeks of going through the Founder Institute. I actually got my co-founder through the Founder Institute, but he was in their capacity as a mentor. So one of the mentors, a guy called Timo Kugler, we got on really well throughout the program. At the end, I asked him to sit on my board of advisors. He then decided to invest in the company when we did our pre-seed round. He then came in as kind of COO in residence 2-3 days a week because he, rightly identified we needed help with operational scaling, and that was his area of expertise. And then he came in full-time as a full-time co-founder shortly thereafter. So it was a unique one, I think. Ben, has that happened before or since?
There has been. Evan Wong, co-founder in the form of Paul Wenk, who was a mentor, and he invested and have also rolled his sleeves up and became their first chief sales / revenue officer. It's
fantastic in that, again, the caliber of mentors are typically so strong. Like, these are really hard people to get a hold of at the best of times. So to get that access to them and build that relationship, and then have the opportunity potentially to either get them on your board of advisors or even, potentially more involved later, it is phenomenal. And another thing I think I did quite well, and I'm not saying I've done a lot of things well, but one that I did do well was building out a board of advisors. And for me, as a solo founder, first-time founder, that was particularly important because, again, I think one of the important things you got to do as a first-time entrepreneur is put your hand up and accept that you don't know everything, and there's certain things that you're not an expert in, and that other people know more about you than you do. And being able to take constructive feedback, no egos involved, just ask people to tell them honestly, what do you think and how would you improve this? And then ultimately, it's your call whether you take the advice or not. But again, getting good advice from smart people and at least considering their point of view, even if you don't necessarily agree, it's something I've always really believed in. And when we do our board of advisor meetings, I literally will ask people in the room to play devil's advocate, even if they don't agree with what they're arguing. Just stress test the hypothesis, make an argument, and make me validate it at a minimum. I think that's something that has worked very well for me so far, and would recommend that approach. Another thing, and I'm sure the Founder Institute guys probably drill this into you throughout the program, I know they did for me, but test really is the key at early stage. Test with product, with price, marketing, with everything. Test everything, test often, ship often, get feedback, and reiterate. You could spend months and months and months and years trying to perfect something only to get feedback that you were gone completely down the wrong track. The network through the Founder Institute has also been really, really helpful. Only in the last few weeks, I've been caught up with Ben and Chris around their network and the Founder Institute network globally. A lot of really, really good people. My advice is pick out the people, or try and identify the people that you think are most valuable to you, and then ask for the intros to them with a reason, as opposed to just blindly asking for intros to anyone. Do a little bit of due diligence on it and have a strategic ask. And I think the beauty with the Founder Institute is they have always been, throughout the process, post-graduation, whenever I've asked for help, it has always been there. But ultimately, it's on you guys to maintain the relationship and ask when you need it. And that is the beauty of startup culture. People want to help and give back, especially if they've had success or have advice that they think they can impart. But ultimately, it's on you, the founders, to maintain those relationships and keep in touch. Go to the events.
For those of you who have never met me, my name's Evan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Checkbox. I was one of you a few years ago. I went through the Sydney FI program. Ben picked me out, and I had the most incredible learning experience, and definitely would not be the founder I am today without the Founder Institute being my backbone. These slides that you're looking at here were the early drawings that I'm pretty sure I actually had these in my FI pitches back in the day to explain the concept of what we were building. I want you to understand that ideation is not a moment. It is a process. And as you come into FI, you would have come with an idea of what you think you're building, the company that you're building. But just know that you'll be pivoting. And any good founder in the beginning will be pivoting rapidly, because the chances of you landing on an idea that is actually a viable business and not just a cool idea is quite rare. Likely, you will need to get bashed up like I did, speak to customers, get rejected, be completely hopeless over months and months, and through many pivots, get to something that actually people will buy at scale. Please do not be discouraged. It's very normal to take a lot of pivots to get to, a viable business idea. It's a process, not a moment. So don't put too much pressure on yourselves of having the right idea at this early stage of your journey.
First of all, I'm not being paid to be here. So I can say with absolute honesty, the course was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. The course is amazing and your teachers are brilliant. So you're in really good hands. And if you're sitting there this evening swallowing a bit hard, don't worry, that's exactly how I felt on my first night. And yet, not only did I pass, but I actually came top of the year. So how is that even possible? Well, I'm going to tell you so that you can also get through the course. I came top because I did two things, which if you do, you will also thrive. Firstly, never give up. Libby calls it her unrelenting discipline. I think that's your line, Libby. And I love that. Most people didn't get thrown off the course. They gave up. And that was a real revelation to me. I thought we were all going to get taps on the shoulders and told to get out. Didn't happen. My second tip is do exactly as FI suggest. Follow their model exactly. If you do their system, you will not only get through the course, but you will probably get a successful startup. So how was the course different from what I expected? It was not about soaring intelligence. It was not about technical wizardry. It was about perseverance and following the FI process.
My advice, which is what I did, would be to ask lots of questions. They're actually an incredibly generous group of people. And I found that in the startup world in general, people are very willing to be generous with their time and their knowledge and their connections. So ask questions, take their advice on board. Sometimes their advice hurts. Sometimes it's pretty brutal, but better that they tell you that in a safe space than you be sitting opposite an investor or a potential business partner and them tell you. Please take their advice on board and never write anyone off. You just never know when their expertise will be just what you need to move forward. There's a wide range of mentors with lots of diversity in their experience and their business background. So take advantage of the people who are there and really reach out to them. The practical lessons each week, like testing your product market fit, those sort of lessons were really valuable and not lessons that I would have got anywhere else. I always liken doing Founder Institute to doing a turbocharged MBA. There's just a lot of practical work that you cover. The second thing that benefited my journey was really being forced to be disciplined. I run a business as well as doing my startup. So this was really, it started as a side hustle. And so it required a lot of discipline to get all the work done each week. Building a startup is hard work, but it's also incredibly satisfying. But you do have to recognize that it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. They don't call it sweat equity for nothing. The third thing, which I think I found the most valuable, was pitching, learning to pitch my business. And I pitch my business every day. I don't always, do the 3-minute pitch, but every day somebody asks me what it's about and I have to tell them, the elevator pitch. And so being forced to practice that has not only made me get clear in my mind what the business is and what the benefits of the business are, but it's also given me a lot more confidence than I ever had before. Really embrace that. It's fantastic for your personal development as well as anything else.